Welcome to The Derby Difference, the podcast that shares the voices, stories, and spirit of Derby Academy. Today, I'm excited to sit down with upper school math teacher Jerry Boardman. Jerry brings a unique and fascinating background to Derby. He served as a lieutenant on the aircraft carrier USS Forrestal. He has taught in both parochial schools and independent schools, high schools and middle schools, and holds degrees from the College of Holy Cross and Mount Clair State University. Known for his love of math challenges and his ability to make subjects engaging for middle schoolers, Jerry embodies the heart and curiosity that define the Derby experience. All right. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
You excited to go?
I am excited to go. I have a question for you.
Oh, no. Out of the chute.
Right
I'm a
out of
little
the
nervous
chute?
about
Yes.
this. Okay, go.
What's the only number that, when spelled out with letters, is in alphabetical order?
This is interesting because I actually had this question lined up for you later on in the podcast.
A lot of people wonder this.
So it's 40.
It is
And
40.
I know the
That is
answer to that.
correct.
Yes, I only know the answer to that because I literally looked up a math question for you.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you stole my thunder. So we're going to have to edit that out later. So let's start with the beginning of your journey. What first inspired you to become a teacher?
Well, first of all, I love school. I always loved school and I loved learning. So even in high school, when I had a free period, I'd say, how can I take a class instead of having that free period? You know, I was always curious. And so in college, I was an economics major, but I had one class that was on education and I fell in love with it. So as you said, I served in the Navy. And then after I got out of the Navy, I went to get my master's degree at Montclair State.
Amazing. So how did that military background, you served as a lieutenant on the aircraft carrier USS Forrestal. How did that experience shape the way you approach teaching and leadership?
Well, people don't think about the Navy is made up of very young people. So a lot of my people that were working for me were 17, 18 years old. So there was that educational part right out of the chute that kids were coming in from high school and maybe sometimes not even completing high school into the Navy. And I was trying to deal with that by educating them on how to be a good sailor, but also just how to be a good person as well. You
Right.
know?
And so how did you fall into being a part of the Navy? How did that kind of come up for you?
When I was applying for colleges, I really wanted to go to Holy Cross and we couldn't afford that. And my dad said, well, if you can get a scholarship there, then you can go. So I applied for a naval scholarship and got that.
Amazing. So that was like your entry into being a part of the armed forces?
Yes. Yeah.
Incredible. Awesome. And you've also taught in a variety of different school settings. So you taught in a parochial school in New York City, independent schools in New Jersey, and now Derby Academy. So what drew you to Derby originally?
So I've loved teaching this age group a lot, but especially like 7th and 8th graders. And so I taught 7th and 8th grade for many years. I taught high school as well. But I just loved the energy that kids bring in 7th and 8th grade, the kind of fun, spirited, and they're not jaded yet as well, you know? Sometimes
Catch them before they get jaded.
That's right. And so I've really enjoyed that. And I kind of get energy from them when they come in the room.
Absolutely. So math can obviously be a really tough subject for some kids. How do you build confidence in a classroom? How do you go about taking students that maybe haven't had a great math experience before or know that it's a challenging subject and try to teach them about a growth mindset and being positive and building confidence?
I think one important thing is to show that I make mistakes and that kids can make mistakes as well. So one of the things I do if I'm up on the board and I'm making a mistake and a kid calls it out, I give them a sticker instead of getting angry and saying, I shouldn't be making mistakes, you know? And so that's a big thing for me is that start by saying none of us are perfect. We don't have to get A's all the time. The next thing is I kind of try everywhere I can to explain as well as I can and to work at the kids' level and at the kids' pace so that they can get some mastery. Once you start getting mastery, you really feel like, oh, I can do this.
The confidence comes with it.
That is exactly right.
Absolutely. So you've taught both math and history, correct? Tell me about the connection between those two subjects, if any.
So my first year teaching, I actually taught in a closed classroom, which means I taught history, religion, math, science, gym, everything, and was with the kids at lunch. And so a lot of the connections even if you don't talk about math, is just how to reach the student where they are,
Yeah.
how to build that relationship, how to make that confidence start to happen. And then, I mean, there's connections with everything. And
Right.
because I have a economics background, that is kind of like political science. So it's kind of math mixed with history, So there was a lot of that even in college for me.
Do you pull in a lot of economics lessons from your past into your current math classes?
I do. So I have a project where kids create their own business and they figure out a cost curve and a income curve and find out where their profits are. We do a lot of things like that. Yeah.
Amazing. Tell me about a story or your favorite memory from that project. Is there like a project that stands out or a funny story or memory that you have from that project?
Just that the kids get so into it. And one of the big things for me is that they take it seriously. They see the real world applications for it, which is huge for me. And so I got a story from another project that we do that I love. We do for my seventh graders percents and fractions. And one of the things we cover is taxes and tipping and coupons for percent off. So I have Stars menus from the Stars restaurant. They walk in, I say, "Welcome to Stars." I give them a menu. They get to order one appetizer, one full meal, one dessert. And my favorite, and then we do, 20% off coupon. Then you want to give a tip and all taxes. And one of my favorite memories is the kid said, "Oh, great, they have gluten free on here." And I just thought, well, it's all gluten free because it's all, pretend, but it shows you how they get
They
into
were
it
into
for
it.
real. Yeah.
Yeah, love that. That's great. Did you get a good tip from
I
that
didn't
kid?
get much of a tip.
No, not much of a tip.
The food wasn't that great either.
So there you go. Tell me about being a member of the Derby community. What is your favorite part of being a Derby Academy teacher or faculty member?
There's just something about Derby, and I think it has to do with that we're just the right size, and that we're a nice mix of like neighborhood school and we pull people from other communities as well. It just seems like we have a great working relationship with all of the teachers with each other and teachers with kids. So I think that's a special thing where the kids come in knowing that they can approach a teacher and almost feel empowered to ask them questions, to ask them favors, ask them advice. I think that's pretty unique at Derby. And for me, I've taught at high schools where it's been much less of a relationship based, because kids are thinking about their own lives and about college and all that. And it just seems like we have something special here.
Yeah, I love the fact that students are constantly approaching teachers, whether it's in the lunchroom or during recess or, when you're in Larson Hall. They feel so confident in the relationship that they've built with you and that you've built with them that they can ask you anything. I mean,
That's
there
right.
are definitely times where, I'll be running over to Larson Hall for morning meeting because I'm late, and somebody will a student will intercept me and start talking to me. I'm like, let's go, we're late, we're late. But I love the confidence that the kids have in talking to adults. So you certainly don't see that at other places. And I'm always happy to talk about that when admission reps come to visit our school and have lunch with our kids. They leave blown away with how well our kids communicate with adults. That's certainly something that we do really well. Absolutely.
Mm.
Is there a particular moment or tradition at Derby that stands out for you? Do you have a favorite tradition here at Derby?
Well, I mean, the tradition of walking down Fearing Road, and I bet other people have said the same thing, but it does tie you back to, wow, we've been doing this for a very long time. And it gives this bit of gravitas to what we're doing. And, I'm sure long after I'm out of here, the schools, kids will be doing it as well.
Yeah, I love that too. No one has said that, just so you know.
Oh, okay, good.
You're the first one to say that.
I am original.
So the Derby mission is improve both mind and heart. How do you see that coming to life in your classroom?
Okay. So, first of all, I try to pre-pack that with examples that are not just math examples out of the book, but have some kind of heart aspect to them as well.
Yeah.
And then as far as what we do every day in the school, we have time set aside that we can work with kids on focusing not just on the academics, but we're talking about the social emotional learning and we're talking about relationships. And that's a big part of it as well.
Wonderful. And I know when kids come into your class, they always are answering riddles. and you're a riddle guy.
I am.
Do you have a favorite riddle or
I
a
have one
favorite?
more.
Okay, all right.
Have it here.
Boy, I hope you don't put me on the spot again
No,
because I got lucky on the first one. I don't know.
You're gonna not. You have to get a pencil and paper. That's one I always say too. Get
Okay,
a pencil and paper.
So right now, stop the podcast, press pause. We'll come back in a minute. You have to get a pencil and paper, and we're going to hear Jerry's riddle. So go ahead.
Yes. So if a hen and a half lay an egg and a half in a day and a half, how many eggs will half a dozen hens lay in a half a dozen days? So again, if a hen and a half lay an egg and a half in a day and a half, how many eggs will half a dozen hens lay in half a dozen days? And I give this to my kids, and the thing I say is, that sounds super complicated. Try to make an easier problem out of that. You know, there are one or two steps that can make this a much easier problem.
Okay, so what's the steps?
So very first, and I'm not going to go further than this because
Okay.
I want you to do it on your own.
Okay, all right.
But the very first thing I would say is, well, if it's a hen and a half and an egg and a half and a day and a half, then twice as many hens would, in that same time period, that's the big tricky thing. And that same day and a half would lay twice as many eggs. So it sounds much easier if I say, if 3 hens lay 3 eggs in a day and a half, then you're like, all right, that's a little bit easier.
Okay.
Because you get so caught up in all of the words of halves. So that's what I say. Try to get a simpler problem that's related to your problem, and it kind of gives you a path forward.
Okay, so when someone inevitably answers this riddle and comes to you with the correct answer,
they would get a sticker.
I don't know. Because this is podcast and because this would be like a special effort to answer this, is there something maybe bigger than a sticker? Maybe a sticker and a lollipop, a sticker and a piece of candy?
Well, I would give them a sticker. I don't really give a lot of candy or things like that. Yeah. But the stickers get bigger the harder the problem.
Okay, so maybe this is the biggest sticker you got because this would be 2 things, right? Listening to the podcast and answering the riddle.
That is correct.
All right, cool. All right, so if you can come back with the correct answer to Mr. Boardman's riddle, big sticker.
That's right.
Big sticker. Perfect. So if you could give our 8th graders advice, life advice, doesn't have to be about math. What would your best piece of advice be to our 8th graders that are about ready to head off to high school?
I would say that there is a perfect place for you as far as high school goes. Not that there's the one high school that you're dying to get into, because that might not be the perfect place. There's a group of your people at that perfect place. So whether your perfect place is this high school or this high school, in those situations, there is your people. Right. There is your group of people that you're going to find. And so I wouldn't worry about as much as getting into whatever news report says is the best high school in America. I would worry about getting into the best school for you.
Right. I appreciate that advice as the secondary school counselor. Thank you very much. And you should definitely heed that advice, students. I love it. All right. So we'll do a couple rapid fire and then we'll close up.
Okay.
So favorite number?
21.
Why is that your favorite number?
It's not rapid fire. Let's go.
Favorite subject besides math?
I would say that it's probably literature. I love poetry. I love reading the classics.
Favorite book?
It is Old Man and the Sea by Hemingway.
Favorite place on campus?
Favorite place I would guess probably the cafeteria, the dining room.
Favorite place on the South Shore?
Favorite place on the South Shore is Scituate. Mine at beach.
Mine too. That's crazy.
Good beach.
It's a great beach. I have 2 kids that absolutely love the Big Rock. And
the slide.
It is amazing. Coffee or tea in the morning?
Tea.
All right, perfect. So we'll wrap up with rapid fire because I want to ask you some more questions where I can ask follow-up questions because that's what I do as a podcast host. I ask you follow-up questions. So rapid fire doesn't really work for me. What does the Derby difference mean to you as a teacher?
I would say anybody coming on campus, if you're coming to see how Derby is different from other schools, just take a look at the kids. Take a look at the kids' smiles. Take a look at the ease in their own situation where they're walking around, and I think that's a big part of the Derby difference is that we actively foster that happy kid, that kid who feels at home at Derby.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Connections school theme this year, you can see that all over campus with every single teacher. And that's what I love about the school. Like I walked out yesterday and, April Tremonti, my daughter's teacher, pulled me aside and said, "Hey, this is what Kendall did today. That was so positive." And all of the teachers have connections with all of the kids that they teach and are eager to share those stories with the parents of the kids that they teach, right? And I think that's such a magical part about Derby is that every teacher knows every kid and we all have stories. And I love that. What do you hope your students remember about being in your class years from now? What do you hope they remember about your class and then about you?
I would say that one of the things I hope they remember is that if they came into my class fearing math and saying they stink at math, that they left feeling empowered to say, no matter how hard it gets, I'm able to do it. They don't need to be perfect at everything, but I hope they leave and remember back on it and say, that was the year where I stopped hating math and, started really enjoying it.
I bet that students do because you're a great teacher.
Thank you.
Jerry, thank you so much for joining me. A huge thank you to Jerry Boardman for joining us on the Derby Difference. From the deck of an aircraft carrier to the math classroom, Jerry's story is a reminder of how diverse experiences can shape passionate and inspiring educators, which he certainly is. His love for learning, problem solving, and connecting with students is what makes our community so special and what makes Jerry so special. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories from our incredible faculty, students, and alumni. Until next time, keep living the Derby difference.